Harnessing Your Wealth isn't your average money podcast, hosted by Billy Peterson, a former jockey turned financial advisor. It's about more than dollars and cents. Each episode dives into the stories, struggles, and successes that define what real wealth looks like. From bold entrepreneurs to everyday dreamers who've learned that true success isn't just earned, it's lived. Because life, like wealth, it's all about how you ride it.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Billy, Harnessing Your Wealth. Wanted to extend a welcome invitation here to anyone thinking about listening to our show, Harnessing Your Wealth. We have some great guests, and I think you're going to find today's guest be very, very worth listening to. Without needing any introduction, the guy has done everything there is to do as a trainer in quarter horse racing, and we're really grateful to have Paul Jones join us today. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I've known you for a long time, Paul, so I consider you a friend. I think that it's been fun watching you over these years do what you've done in quarter horse racing, and no one goes too far without seeing you at a racetrack or a big race or sales, or you have your name there at the top of every record book and every list. I know you've won pretty much every race there is to win. Maybe there's a few still on your bucket list, but Cade and I are excited to have you on the show today because we love talking to horse people, and especially those who have accomplished so much. That's what this show is about, is getting the kind of the secret behind what makes people tick and what made people successful. We wanted to ask you a lot about that today. What is, in your opinion, with going back into your background a bit, what was it that made your barn so successful over these years?
Well, I think that one of the main things is hard work and the will to go to do the extra work and time, and the will to want to do good and to build a good team around yourself to give you the opportunity to do that. Because as a trainer, like a coach of a football team,
Mm-hmm.
I'm only as good as my players. So you build a good rapport with good people that can send you good horses. And then you've got the team around you to be able to take care of those horses. And it starts from the ground up, from the grooms, to the horseshoers, to the veterinarians, to the jockeys as yourself, as you were, and the gallop boys. You just need a good to build. It's like recruiting. It's like the draft. A good groom, and you want to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
You get good clients, and you want to take good care of them. You want them to stay around. Same thing with your jockeys, your assistant trainers, the whole group around you, the people that manage your ranch, the people that you just got to have a really good team built up, and you've got to work really hard, and you've got to have the will to pay attention and want to be at the top of your game.
I remember back there in the mid 90s, and at the time, mid 90s, you were coming around. That place was hopping with some of the greatest trainers in the history of quarter horse racing. Los Alamitos was the place. And what was it like for you as a trainer, young trainer, kind of getting started and had your aspirations, what you wanted to do, but also being around all those top level quarter horse trainers that you were on the backside of Los Alamitos?
When I started, I was young and I didn't have many horses. And like you said, this place was full of top-notch, well-established, some of the greatest trainers in the business. And when you start out as a young kid, you're just a kid, and nobody wants to send you the horses. They go to those people that are experienced and they've done it. And it's a whole different atmosphere today. But like you said, in those days, every barn here was, Plain Swanevelt and many others that were, that would get all the good horses. And it was very difficult getting started. I had to start with claiming horses and claim horses and claim horses from people like Blaine Swaneveld, and even back then Bob Baffert was here.
Mhm.
People like that. I had to claim horses from them and try to improve them and do better. It took a lot of hard work and years of doing it to try to get into the same level as those guys. When I started, I never dreamed of ever accomplishing what I have accomplished. I've accomplished much more than I ever thought I ever would. But it definitely was a different atmosphere then. But it was kind of good because they made you good, because if you weren't good, you weren't going to beat them. So being around those people, they say, if you want to be successful, you hang out with successful people. So you're in a surrounding of great trainers. You had to be good or you weren't going to compete. So it was kind of actually a blessing because they made you good. And same thing like with the jockey colony, right? When you came in here and you had to ride against the jockeys you had to ride against, you had to be good to
Yeah,
be
it's
able.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go into the room and you're looking over there at Joe Badia and Eddie Garcia and Jim Lewis, and the list goes on and on. I mean, Tammy Purcell was there. She was in her heyday, riding a lot, and Kenny Hart was even out there. Bruce Pilkington took a stay here and there. Um, it was amazing, the riders and the colony and then the horsemen. And it was work back then. I mean, like you said, it was get out there and work, because if you're not there, you're probably not going to get the mount, but you're out there doing it every single day. And I remember you gave me a lot of good opportunities back in those days to ride for you. And we had a fairly good amount of success together. And then I watched you, immediately after I retired, is about when you went on a tear, and you kind of got together with Cody Jensen, and you guys had a great run with some really good horses. You won the All-American 3 times, I think, and I think you're all-time leading as far as the earnings go. Where do you rank right now as far as total number of wins?
I believe I'm second to Blaine Swaneveld in
Second only to
total.
Blaine. So you're getting close to 5,000 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm getting close to him. I'm not far off in total number of wins. It's a little difficult now because here in California, we're only running 2 nights a week
Yeah.
now. Lucky
Yeah.
to run a couple horses a week. It's not like the old days when they ran 6 nights a week and 9 races a night.
Yeah.
So my win numbers are nothing like they were back in the day when we were running 4 or 5 days a week and there was a lot more quarter horse racing here. And then I'm not racing at other tracks right now. So it's a little difficult to rack up the win numbers right now, but I'm not too far off. It's possible for me to get there if I hang around a while. I'm more proud of the all-time earnings record, which is, quite ways above anybody else.
I've got a little stat here for the listeners, but on Equibase, I just looked up before the show. You were leading in wins and earnings from 2002 to 2015, ranked first every single year. So that's pretty impressive.
You had a dominant barn. I mean, a long stretch there. Let's go back to kind of get what set the stage for that. I mean, we can all kind of go back and start putting the pieces together. What events kind of set this thing in motion for you? Can you remember maybe getting a phone call from a prominent owner, or what was a kind of a couple moments that opened the door for you that wide?
It it the best advertisement in this sport is being seen in the winner's circle. And I think in 2002 was kind of my breakout year when we won the Champion of Champions with Who's Leaving Who. And I had a really good year. And at that point, then I started getting phone calls from a lot of good prominent owners. I've trained for, Artie Hubbard, Abigail Quananakoa, quite a few.
Scoop for a while there, right?
Yeah, Vessel Stallion Farm, a lot of really good people. I mean, I can go on and on. I can't name them all right now, but just I started getting horses from some of the best breeders and some of the top owners, and it was all just through winning races. You know, when you're doing good, people that they look for somebody that's doing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you were doing well, and obviously kept a tight ship and had your horses looking right, and then you were going back and forth to Ruidoso, and always had a good campaign over there every summer, and back to Los Al. So at this stage in your career, are you kind of just staying close to home because you're more comfortable just being near family and have everything else going on?
Yeah. I think I went to Ruidoso, somewhere close to 15 years, and it's a lot traveling back and forth all the time. And I had a home there. I also had another ranch there, and I had a home and a ranch here. So we had a really big operation for many years, and I was back and forth. I'd go there for a week. I'd come here for a week, go there for a week, come here for a week.
Yeah.
And I had a really good team of assistants and people helping me, and it made it possible. But after doing it for, 10, 15 years, it starts to get a little bit difficult with the traveling and the back and forth and the pressure and trying to stay on top of it. At the time, I knew what was going on every day with every horse, whether it was in Ruidoso or California. So, if you called me as a client and your horse was in Ruidoso, or if I had a client that had a horse in California and they wanted to know what was going on with their horse, I needed to know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really a lot to keep track of and a lot to do. And I did it, and I did it well for many years, but you just can't keep going on like that forever. There comes a time in your life when you have to say, okay, I've accomplished a lot of the goals that I set out to do. There was a time, when I started, my goal was just to win one stake race. And then it turned into wanting to be leading trainer at Los Alamitos. And it turned into want to be leading trainer in the nation. And then I wanted to win the champion of champions, and then I wanted to win the All-American. And so I just pushed and pushed for my goals. And then when you kind of, and I wanted to get bigger and bigger and grow and do more and more and more. And then there comes a point in your life when you kind of done all that and you're like, okay, that doesn't really, I still want to win all I can win, but I don't have the desire to really kill myself and have that much stress and responsibility forever. You just can't do it forever.
It starts taking a toll on you health-wise and your mental stability, everything, right? You start thinking about the trade-offs.
Yeah, exactly. So, once you've accomplished kind of all you wanted to accomplish and things are, then sometimes you want to come back down. You went up, 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 and then now you want to come back down. And I do this now because I love the sport. I love what I do. Not so much of a necessity, anymore, but I still would like to continue only for the fact that I love what I do, and I love every time I win a race, whether it's a cheap race or a stake race, I'm just as happy. So it's fun, and I love the horses. I love racing. So I enjoy now that I don't have to travel. I'm at my barn every day. I'm here and I'm close to home, and it's home for me. So so it makes it nice, to finally be able to stay home and not have to worry about as many worries in many places and many horses all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
Going back, I know it's a tough question, Paul, but if you could pick one or two of your favorite horses you ever trained, who would they be?
That is a good question. I would say Who's Leaving Who definitely was one of my favorites. And Foose also was one of my favorites. And
Who owned Foose?
actually, I owned Foose. I bred him.
You owned him yourself. Okay.
Owned
I
him
was thinking
myself. Then I ended up selling half of him to Dr. Allred.
right.
So we became partners, 50-50 partnership. And then we ran him through his career. He won the Ed Burke, and then he won the Super Derby. And then he finished, say, second in the 2 million. And then he was in the top three in the champions. And then he went on to be a stallion. He was a really cool horse. I've had so many good horses. Another horse that was so fun to train that Cody Jensen rode for me was Snowbound Superstar.
I was
And
going to say that with all those wins piled up.
yeah, he
That
broke
was fun.
for most consecutive wins for a quarter horse.
Yeah, do you
And
know about that horse?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he was an 870 horse. What did he win, like 16 in a row or something?
something like that. I can't remember the number, but he won a bunch of them. And he almost he almost got beat in the race that he broke the record. He blew the turn, and the horse had him beat by like 4 lengths going down the lane coming for home here at Los Allen. It's not very far.
Wow.
He was a really fun horse because you knew if you could get him in a race and get the saddle on him, you're going to get a picture. It was never, you know, he was a lot of fun.
Was he pretty ranked to saddle and to be around?
He could be at times, but not terrible. The only problem I really had with him when he won his first race, we took the blinkers off of him to go in the win picture, and when he seen Cody on his back, he just freaked out and he ran over the groom. He almost went over the rail.
Holy
Oof.
I grabbed the rein and I don't know how I pulled him off. I don't know how I pulled him off of not going over the fence and turned him around, and then we put the blinkers back on him, and then he was okay. And then on, he took his picture with the blinkers on every race after that. So
Wow.
What point did you know he was going to be an 870 horse? Is that the plan all along? Or were you just kind of feeling it out because he wasn't getting the job done straight away?
yeah, he wasn't really getting the job done in the straightaway, but he didn't have that many outs. But he was just a big, long, lanky horse, and he was by Snowbound. It's a thoroughbred,
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to give it a try. And in them days, 870 races were very popular here in California. Not so much more, but it was a really big deal. I mean, we had some really good 870, the Gold Rush Derby, and then there was the Marathon Handicap. There was some really and the challenge races were here.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was he was definitely a lot of fun. But I've had so many good horses throughout the years.
Hard to single anybody out or forget
Yeah,
anybody.
but who's leaving who was probably my first really good grade one horse. Um, you know, and like I said, Foos and No Secrets Here was great. Um, Wave Carver, another really good horse that I had, and there's just been a lot of them. It's just too many to kind of mention, but
Yeah.
I've been really fortunate to have really nice horses. Strawkins, another just amazing.
You won close to 100 grade one wins. Is that correct?
I'm not sure how many right now. I don't know the stats.
You've won so many, you've lost track. That'd be nice.
Just to win one.
That'd be nice if you
My dream
forget.
was to win an overnight handicap when I started.
I remember the days you used to train thoroughbreds and everything, and so you were not opposed to whatever, but you always did a good job with them.
Yeah, we were successful, and you rode quite a few of them for me that we done really well with.
I remember the 870 races there you was mentioning because, yeah, it was big. We didn't have to use thoroughbred races to fill the card. You could fill the card pretty much with quarter horses. There were a lot of horses on the racetrack, and
Yeah.
it's I don't know. It's interesting. It's sad in a way to see Los Alamitos kind of dwindle with the horse numbers and everything. What are your thoughts about the future out there?
I agree. It's sad because, we're only running 2 days a week and primarily more thoroughbred races than we are quarter horse races. The unfortunate thing, what really turned the tide is when, racinos in other states started. We used to get, the best horses from all over the country would come to California. And now that, you get racinos and bigger purse money for overnight racing in, in Oklahoma, New Mexico, Louisiana, even Iowa has them. I mean, and then Texas has got a program that's good for them. So it's really, we just don't get the horses anymore, and we're kind of relied on just the California clientele. And they're slowly, the big farms and breeders are slowly dying off. And a lot of their kids aren't going through keeping it going. So we're losing a lot of our prominent California owners and people throughout the years that aren't being replaced. So, we still have some really good races, like our fraternities that bring in a lot of out-of-state horses for them. But our year-round campaign is really lacking with owners and horses. So, I don't know really what the future is. I'm hoping, you know, if I was an owner, I would say, look, you got the Ed Burke, it runs for $1 million. You got the Golden State, you got the 2 million for $2 million. Typically there's 12 trials, and we don't deal with the headwinds and the problems and stuff like that. I really think fraternity wise, for bang for your buck, it's really a smart place to run,
Yeah.
But then you got the people that have that all American dream. But
Yeah.
it can be like hitting a lot too.
Oh yeah.
But I'm hoping that we can stay around for a while. Dr. Allred has every intention to keep the place going as long as he's able to, and hopefully there's a path that we can keep it going beyond that. Um, it's a great place to run. I mean, we've got a great facility, we've got a great track, it's well maintained. We run year round, we've got good weather. You know, so I can't think of I've ran horses in a lot of places. I can't really think of a better place that to run. Hopefully, and we can stick around a while.
You're right on the opportunities there with the big purses. I mean, everybody's shooting for those. When I say everybody, I mean people that are serious about running for the big purses, the grade one races. I think Los Al has more graded stakes than any track, but I don't know what it is, because everyone has the choice to make, run there, run Oklahoma or Texas or New Mexico or even Wyoming now getting bigger with their purses. But is it just politics? Is that what's caused the California tracks? Because this is not just Los Alamitos. We're talking all the other major thoroughbred tracks are dwindling in numbers. Is it the expense? Is it poor politics in the state? Why can't they compete and build up the racing like these other states are?
Well, it's all about the money, Billy. When we run a maiden race for a $9,000 purse, and Zia Park's got one for 50,000. It's all dollars and cents. If we don't have the money of the historical gambling like Wyoming or the slot machines in other states to supplement our purses. Texas made a great program with their tax dollars going into the purses for horse related purchases. A lot of places just have better programs than us, and we're kind of the politics of the Indian casinos and the alternative gaming that's in California kind of keeps all that away from us. They've got too much money behind them to keep the slot machines and casino gambling out of our racetracks. So I mean, it's basically all dollars and cents. And if you live in Oklahoma and you can run for a lot more money there, why would you send your horse to California? But the only thing that we can really go on is our stake races. That's the only program that keeps our horses coming in.
I know Doc spent years and years trying to keep it clean. Let's say make it fair, and once the bad players out, and he's made that very public. And so he's continuing to work on that. Do you feel like it's going in the right direction from that standpoint? Is just the fairness?
Yeah, I think it's headed in the right direction. I don't think we're quite all the way where we need to be yet. But Doc, of any racetrack owner in the country, has made a bigger stance on trying to make fair racing. He's gone, the extra mile to try to make that happen. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I've already, we've already seen a lot of changes happening. I don't think we're quite, with the legal system and with all the technicalities, we're not quite where we need to be yet. But I see us heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people are concerned about that and where they send their horses, and then it's kind of sometimes the same old, we get this story of everything's going to be cleaned up and it's going to be better. Because look, if you're listening to this and you're wondering how this horse racing deal even works, it's a big part of the money and the purses in some of these big stakes races comes directly from the owner. It's like playing a game of poker, and essentially you get a couple of cards dealt, and then you have to put up an ante to even join the game. And after a couple of cards, you're gonna have to decide if you're staying in the game or you're folding. And each time you get another card, you put more money. Somebody else is gonna either raise the pot. You have to meet it. You have to decide if you're staying in by continuing to throw money into the pot. And it's a similar story with horse racing with the owners, is they don't know a lot about the capability of their racehorses until they've hit the track and you see the full card on the table, and how quickly they can maybe determine if that horse is worth continuing to pay on. So you've put a lot of money into it and you're not sure what you have, but the folks that are having the huge amount of success, and in large part, have an unfair advantage. It's like an athlete who has steroids or a drug that the other athletes don't, and so that's been the case in many of these big races. And sometimes it's starting to be exposed, but it's still going on, and some people are abusing it and using it, and many times these owners are taking large shares of those purse dollars, like the pot I'm talking about. And the guys that are paying into it just finally sometimes get frustrated and want to quit. And I think sometimes that's what happens, a lot of the good owners.
Oh yeah. And you can imagine as a trainer, when you get up and you go to your barn every day and you work hard and you try to do your best job, and then you've got people that are, I'll just say cheating, and you can't outrun them, and you're doing your best to keep your barn together, to keep your horses healthy, to train your horses the best ability, to try to, give your owners a little bit of encouragement, and try to develop good horses. And when even especially when you get a good one, I've had in the, probably, I would say the things got really unfair probably this last 10 years in the sport. And when it's difficult to get a good horse, even when I had a lot of them. And when you do, and you got one, and you got a really nice horse, and you go up there, and this horse should be able to win the big race, and a horse that's not as good as your horse is beating you because of the unfair advantage. It's discouraging, as a trainer, because this is not just a sport that we're doing because it's our hobby. This is our livelihood, and we have to face it on a daily basis. And you have to look those people in the face, and it can be really difficult. But one thing I definitely learned throughout the years, and I've been here a long time because my dad was a trainer and I grew up around the racetrack. I hate to say even how long I've been here. Throughout the years, there's always been people trying to push the envelope and cheat. And one thing I can say is throughout the history of it, they all eventually get caught. They all eventually get caught.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that now in this situation that's going on in today's racing world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, heads are starting to roll,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't all rolled yet. They're heading in the right direction, and because I even myself, I own horses sometimes and breed them, and I get what you're saying as an owner because I'm an owner and a trainer, and it's very discouraging. But there's always that hope that I've always said that eventually they'll get caught. Eventually, and it went too long. I mean, they were stealing our money for a long time before a lot of these people got caught. But it all comes to a head eventually. It's just the way it goes. If you cheat long enough, you're going to get caught.
Yeah, if there's people still in the game long enough to see that happen, that's the thing is you want those things to happen immediately, but it's frustrating as they're going on, and
Yeah,
and seeing it.
but it's been a lot of years where we've been taking a beating. At least we're starting now to see some results.
Right. Well, I like that, and you've done some really good things with things you've done. You've won a lot of big races, a lot of money, purse money, and you've been smart with it. And unlike a lot of other horsemen, and not calling any names out, but I was involved in the horse industry pretty much my whole life too, and I watched a lot of jockeys who should have retired multimillionaires if they'd just been smart with their money, and they retired with nothing and end up having to work on the track in some capacity at some low level job just to get by and survive. And I'm sure you've seen that with trainers at your level who've been dominant at one point and then kind of fade off into nothing. What made you different in that regard, and how did you come to the point in your mind where you were going to be smart with your money, invest money, kind of, I know you put several, you bought several pieces of land, developed things like that, and then invested in some really good horses too, and sold when the price was right. Talk to us about those things.
Well, getting my business going, I needed a ranch, so I started out buying a piece of property in partnership with one of my clients, and that client was really big into the real estate and apartments and investments, real estate investments. He was actually owned a real estate office, and we bought that piece of land, and then when the time come, the developers come knocking on our door, we sold it. And we did really well. And then I reinvested that money in some income property. And then I bought another ranch and invested that money. So the good thing about sometimes as a trainer, not all trainers have property or ranches or stuff like that. So if you can invest your money in a piece of property, I mean, you're always going to do well. And it depends on where the property's at, because I didn't do as well with the property that I had in New Mexico as I did the property in California. Right. The property in New Mexico, it doesn't appreciate, not even close to what California does. So, so that can be a lot of trainers' retirements, when they sell their, if they want to retire, they can sell their ranch and get, whatever pretty decent amount of money. So I've always tried to be smart with my money, and build it up. I never was one to I don't gamble. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I just pretty much training horses is my only thing I do. I joke around saying my hobby is breeding horses, but I tried never to waste a lot of money and tried to be smart with it and be able to have something in life. I've always wanted to be able to have a nice place and have things, and I love breeding horses, and I've been very lucky with that. So things, and I've taken the money that them horses made and did things with that. But it's definitely, you got to be smart, because like you said, I've seen a lot of jockeys that should be millionaires and they ain't got a dime. And I've seen a few trainers too. And people ask me, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a racehorse trainer. Oh, wow. Okay. So realistically, you can be a racehorse trainer and not make any money, or you can be a racehorse trainer and make a lot of money. But I always tell everybody, it's not so much always what you make, it's what you can put away out of what you make. You make $1 million and you spend $1 million, well, you're no better off than the guy who made 100,000 that put away 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
20,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's relative. I mean, a lot of people they live beneath their means no matter where they're at in life, and they become very wealthy later on. And some people just can never, ever decide that they're going to put anything away. They spend everything they make, and they could be making millions. So that's what I saw when I was there. And I was always kind of keyed in on the financial end of it. That was my background. It was my passion, so to speak, when I was going to school and starting to make money as a jockey myself, starting to put money away and watch it grow. And then I was helping some of the other guys. And that's kind of what led me into this field that I'm in now, is helping people invest and make wise decisions financially, because I really saw how terrible the decisions were for most people. And I found out later, in doing what I do, that the vast majority of the population is terrible with money. It's just the
Yeah.
cold, hard facts. They just don't know. They either don't know what to do, they've never been educated, they don't have any financial literacy whatsoever. And sometimes they think they're doing good by just stuffing it away, but they don't trust anyone. And so then they either put it in their mattress or put it in nothing but a bank, a savings account, or a CD, and they never make any real return on it. So that's another big thing I see is a mistake. You've done well, not only with your career and gone to the very top, the apex of the whole industry and what you've done. You set goals, you've accomplished almost everything I'm sure you set out to do. But then you financially, you don't have to keep training, is what I'm saying. You could probably retire comfortably and be fine. And I saw a few jockeys who did that I rode with, and I was impressed by them in what they did. And then I saw the absolute opposite of that. It's something I try to help people with every day. And I was also impressed, Paul. Sorry, I was just going to say I was impressed by how you treated people. And I think that's another reason that sets you apart as a trainer.
Thank you.
You're one of the few guys that I've seen that can speak Spanish fluently. And I was always impressed by that too, because most of the trainers back when I was riding, they expected all their grooms to be able to speak English and talk to them. And you were the only one that I know of that was a Caucasian trainer that could speak Spanish and communicate so well in the native language of most of your grooms. How did you learn it, and why did you decide that was important?
That was, it's been a big asset in my training career to be able to speak Spanish. I don't know if I could do half of what I've done without being able to speak Spanish. And as a kid, like I said, my dad was a trainer, and he had a lot of Hispanic guys working for him at our place where we lived and at the racetrack. And at a young age, I'm out there running around in the barn and talking to the workers. And little by little, as a kid, I started learning. Learn this word, learn that word, learn how to say this, how to say that. And throughout the years, I'm self-taught to the point where I can speak Spanish fluently. And the good thing about it is I've learned also, I speak it with their accent, because you pick up the accent by what you hear from them telling you the words rather than learning it from a book.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up the accent, and I've learned the language. Primarily throughout my career, the majority of my employees have been Hispanic, and they all appreciate the fact that I can talk to them and I can tell them what to do with a horse. Like there's no miscommunication I don't know how a trainer could could really do it properly without being able to communicate with the person that's, I have a system that I've always had, and I call it, it's like a doctor making your rounds. So when we get done with the gallops and the training, me and my assistant, we go through and we get the first groom, and say the groom has 6 horses. We get that groom, we go through all his 6 horses. I tell him what I want him to do with those horses. And then we go to the next groom. We go through all his horses. We go through the whole barn every day. We make our rounds. We talk to the grooms. We go over each horse. I'm able to ask them, hey, this horse finishes grain. I want you to take this horse's temperature. I want you to do this horse up. I want you to back this horse's feet. I want you to ice this horse. I want you to give this horse 2 butanite. I want you to cut back on the alfalfa and give him a little more Timothy because he's getting a little fat, or this horse is a little thin. We need to, give him a little more, or whatever the case may be. I'm able, when we make our rounds, I'm able to communicate with that groom. Okay, he's able to tell me, hey, this horse lost a shoe. This horse didn't finish his grain. This one's got a little temperature. This one's, so that communication is so important. And like I said, without speaking Spanish, I could have never done what I've done.
No, it's impressive to me that you would actually want to learn that. The game of horse racing has changed a lot since the, whatever, 25, 30 years ago when I was involved in. And there are a lot more Hispanic people all across every avenue of this industry now, from not just grooms, but all the jockeys pretty much, a good number of the trainers, and a more and more a larger and larger percentage of owners. So, they're involved, and they love it. You can tell they really want to be involved. So speaking Spanish, I'm sure is something it's almost even a bigger requirement now.
Yeah, really. I've got a few Spanish clients now that don't speak English. I've had a lot in the past. I've had clients from Mexico and different places that don't speak English, and they really appreciate that I can speak Spanish and be able to talk to them. In today's world, in the riding colony, there's a lot of jockeys that don't speak very good English. So, it's really important to be able to communicate with your riders too.
Yeah. Hayden, don't whip so much and just go out there and try to ride this horse. keep him together.
Yeah, exactly.
They did that for you. The rules are much different too for riders than when I was out there, because we never used to have to worry about the whip and the crop rules and all these things. So
yeah, those rules are a little crazy now.
They're crazy, a lot over the top. In my opinion, a lot of these guys wouldn't be able to do it.
You breaking babies right now, Paul?
Yeah, we've got some babies going at our ranch in Temecula, California.
Anything promising yet, or still too early?
I've got some really nice ones. You don't know how fast they are, and until you get track and you start working them and doing stuff like that. We don't work them at the ranch. We just gallop them and teach them to go in and out of the gates, and sometimes teach them to come out of the gates a little bit. But I like to talk to the riders and say, it's funny, on some horses. I've had horses that have never done more than just gallop, and the riders just say, I love this horse. I love the way he moves. I love the way he travels, the way he glides over the ground. Sometimes the riders can get a feel of a horse that's a good one even before you ever breeze it.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always pan out, but we've got some good stock and some good pedigree and some really nice bred horses. But you never really know until you know.
Yeah, they'll tell you when you hit the finish line. That's when they'll start telling you if they're.
And one of the things too is if you bring a group of babies in, and you start working them, and if you think you got 8 or 10 good ones, you don't have any good ones.
It's when you don't think you have them.
No, it's when you got 1 or 2, one that just stands out.
Okay.
That's got a good one. When you think, this one's good, that one's good, that one's good. If you think, the whole group is good, or you got a lot of good ones, then you really don't have a good one.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. They're all just
Because
kind of average. Mm-hmm.
the real good ones stand out like a sore thumb. I mean, they
Mhm.
really come to the top, above and beyond. Like, if you work two horses and they work heads up, you work two more and they work heads up. You work two more, and they're half a length apart. You say, "Oh, these are nice horses," but that good one, he's outworking his company by a length and a half, 2 lengths. That's when you really know you got the good one.
We know you are now training for Connie Rosenthal, who's been a good client of
Mm-hmm.
ours for a long time, and she went and spent a lot of money on that yearling this year. So you got that one going yet?
Yeah, he's going. He really looks the part. He's a May baby. He's a late baby, but he doesn't look like it. He looks like he's a February baby. He's very well developed for his age. Just a nice horse. He's really put together perfect. I mean, you just don't get a better family than that.
Mhm.
Had so much success with that family. Um, I've got her two other ones that are 3-year-olds here in the barn, and just one Saturday night,
Oh, yeah, I
Saw
know
that.
that.
Cyber Force. Um, but this one, he looks a little different than these two. I really like the way he's balanced and the way he's put together. He's really well balanced and really well developed for a young horse. He just looks the part. He's got the breeding. Everything's coming along great. So keep our fingers crossed for Connie. I know she loves the business, and she loves that family.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And she's had a heck of a lot of success with it. So we're pulling for you guys on that one.
Thank you.
Are there any major accomplishments still on your list, Paul?
To break the 100 million mark on earnings. I'm in the 90s. I don't know where I'm
Gonna
at.
ask you that. You're at like 91,500,000.
Yeah, I would like to break the 100 million mark before I hang it up.
Well, you're in the position to do so.
Yeah, you're right there. You just need a few more of those big time runners and
Yeah, get a couple good ones. Maybe we can do it.
Yeah.
stay healthy for a while. And that's the big thing with horse racing is you're just trying to sometimes keep them together. And the good ones oftentimes not only have the mind for it, but they just hold together, right? You're not always having to patch them back up after every race.
They really do. That's very true. But when you get a good one, you just have to manage them properly too.
Mhm.
Pick and choose your spots and kind of take care of them, and not do anything that you're going to jeopardize his health in any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know that there's a lot going on and you're busy on a daily basis. That's the life of a horse trainer. Up early, hit the track before sunrise, um, have to keep track of everything. How do you do that? Maybe before we let you go, I remember Blaine back in the day, and you could talk about any horse from a horse he had in his barn at that point to a horse that he might have seen run on the Idaho Fair circuit 35 years ago and knew the mother and the grandmother. And I'm just curious because you seem to have the same kind of mind. You can talk about horse and almost, from my standpoint, any horse that you've ever had an association with and still recall it, know what's going on with it, remember. Is that just something that you have innately, or is it something you're just always thinking about?
As a kid, and I'm not, Blaine was great, what he did and everything. But as a kid, I'm probably not as good at it anymore as I was when I was younger, as far as remembering everything. But for example, when I was just really a student of the sport of the horses, when my dad was training, he'd leave the racing form on the kitchen table every morning. And I'd study the racing form every day. This is 12, 14 years old. When we came to the track with my dad, he could be in a conversation with some guys and they could talk about a horse. And I'd say, yeah, this horse, so-and-so trains it. It's by this stallion, by this mare. It ran, last time so-and-so rode it. It ran fifth. It was in the one hole. I could literally almost memorize the whole program for that. And then I used to go, I really, because I was just, you had a clear mind and I studied it. And I almost used to be able to do that with the sale book. Yeah, so-and-so is in the sale. It's by this one, by that one. She produced this, she produced that. I used to almost memorize almost every horse in the sale book, every horse in the program. I'm not as good at that anymore. I'd probably have to, I don't work at it as hard as I did when I was younger, but it was one of them things that you loved it and you're so interested in it, and you studied your horses and you studied everything, and it was just what you liked, so you're able to retain those things.
Well, I think that shows everyone and to those listening that when you want something bad enough and you're passionate enough, you submerge yourself in it, and that becomes you, becomes your life, becomes your identity, and everything around you is something to do with it, and you kind of reflect that back in the people around you. So you've done well for yourself, Paul. Congratulations on one hell of a career.
Well, thank you.
Quarter horse trainer. Going out the way you are, not going out anywhere, really. Just you already achieved so much. So whatever happens from here on out, I think is icing on the cake. And wanted to say thank you for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. To all you listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed this show. Stay tuned for more from all sorts of other guests, and you'll be able to read the show notes and learn a little bit more about Paul and all of his accomplishments. And if you're an owner thinking about where to send a horse and you want to go to Los Alamitos, so your guy's right there, Paul Jones, one of the best ever.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Got a spot.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. For more information about today's show, please check out the show notes. Visit our website at www.petersonws.com or give us a call at 801-475-4002. Peterson Wealth Services is a registered investment advisor. This is a paid-for advertisement. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up-to-date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussions and answers to questions do not involve the rendering of a personalized investment advice, but are limited to the dissemination of general information. A professional advisor should be consulted before implementing any of the options presented. Peterson Wealth Services.